welcome in our very good friend, Matt George.
I love it here, man. I love it here.
Matt of a normal functioning work environment at ABC 10, and of course the tremendous work he does on Locked On Kings. Matt, I saw you tweet the show promo today that you had some things to say. I know you apparently it was just me and Matt George. No one else, just me and Matt George. Just that Steph Curry 3 just stung us a little bit. But Matt, what did you think about? Let's get the negative out of the way. The end of last night's game, the fourth quarter of last night's game. What did you take away from all that?
Well, first off, I heard you and Kenny talking about this earlier. Kenny, I'm calling cap on that. It didn't sting you a little bit, and I'm calling cap on every single Kings fan that didn't sting you a little bit too, because by all intents and purposes, that was a regular season game. The Kings were treating that like a regular season game, and they forced the Warriors essentially to treat it like a regular season game, even though Steph Curry said on the broadcast at the end, "Oh no, we always plan for this to be a dress rehearsal." My ass, you were down 18, your bench got you back into it, and suddenly it's like, "Oh, put me in the game and I can have my moments because I'm Steph freaking Curry." But no, that game absolutely did sting. Like that it was, hey, remember what just happened to you in the playoffs a few months ago? Yeah, here it is again. Deal with it. And it didn't take Steph putting 50 on your head in order to do it this time. So yeah, that did sting, because we know that the Kings were treating that as close to a regular season game as they possibly could, without having, of course, Trey Lyles, who was not playing because of his little calf tweak, and then Chris Duarte didn't play. I have to imagine those two would have gotten playing time, and probably Sasha Vezenkov wouldn't have played. And I don't know, you would have had to find one more guy that would have probably bounced out too. But like that game stung, man. That game stung, and the worst part, the consolation prize of the Kings losing that game is the wonderful fan base that is Dub Nation coming right back into the fold. I'm telling you, I was having a conversation in a barbershop, in my barbershop, about this a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about the difference between Laker fans and Warrior fans, and I figured it out. Laker fans are entitled, right? Laker fans just think, hey, everything comes to us because we're Los Angeles, get all the stars, we're the Lakers, we deserve championships, we're LA, give it to us. Warrior fans are insecure. Warrior fans are incredibly insecure in their success, because these are all the people that are in my mentions and are in the comment section of the podcast saying, no, Kings and Warriors isn't a rivalry. Kings and Warriors is not a rival. Kings got to win something. Kings got to beat the Warriors first and foremost in order for this to be a rivalry. Until that happens, oh, that's cute, Kings. You're the little young team that's exciting. The Warriors, hey, Dub Nation, we're gold-blooded, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff that they spout. Meanwhile, everything else that, like, when you watch these two teams play on the floor, when you watch how much the NBA is trying to showcase these teams by putting them on NBA TV in a preseason game, putting them on ESPN the night before in Sacramento, putting them basically on national television every single time they meet during the regular season, the fact that when these two teams play, it's some of the best basketball that you could find, period. It's incredibly entertaining, to where you have multiple people on the East Coast who are staying up 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning to watch the finish of Kings Warriors in the preseason. You're damn right this is a rivalry. Both these teams wanted to beat each other bad last night. Steph Curry and the Warriors are playing any other team, they're sitting out the rest of the night. But because it was the Sacramento Kings, Curry was like, yeah, put me back in. I want to humble these kids a little bit. Like, let's not lie to ourselves. This is an absolute rivalry between these two teams. It's great for basketball. I cannot wait till October 27th, because the Warriors can have all the preseason wins. That's fine. You can have all the wins that doesn't count. When it matters, when we're doing game one all over again in the Golden One Center next Friday, the Kings are going to repeat what they did in game one a few months ago. It's going to be a dub for Sacramento.
You know how you know when Matt's really fired up? He talks very fast. That is sign number one. Matt is sick of everybody's crap, and he is going to say what he has to say, and you're going to listen.
Well, Matt said a couple of things there. He said a couple of things. First of all, like I said, I told you my reaction. You guys can classify whether or not that's something that stung me. I maybe it did. Like I said, oh man, damn. Maybe that's a sting. Nobody said it broke my neck or anything. So maybe that's a sting. You know, like, oh damn, maybe that's a sting. So that's a sting. That's a sting. So there's that. Second of all, I think you, and you're not the only one, Matt, other people, game didn't mean that much to either one of these two teams. When they were there and the game was close, yeah, all right, it's winning time. Let's try and win. But I don't think they care about that game. Like, I don't think nobody was tripping off that game.
Yeah, but when you're watching the game, though, when you're actually watching them play, like, they wanted to beat each other. They were going toe-to-toe at each other. You had Fox and Chris Paul jawing at each other for flopping. You had everything that showcased that was a regular season game. If you blinked and didn't realize the context, that was game 8 of the 2023 NBA playoffs that we watched last night. Like, everything about that game suggests that these two teams wanted to beat each other. Brown wanted that win. Kerr wanted that win. We could say it's all friendly in the preseason, but we know these two teams. We know the context behind it. The Kings want revenge for being knocked out by the Warriors in a series that they believe they should have won, and the Warriors want to put the Kings in their place because the Warriors don't want to accept the fact that the Kings are the young up-and-coming team and the Warriors are the old team that's just trying to hold on. Like, that's what these two teams are, and it showcases when they play each other.
But here's what I'll say. And I don't dispute that they played hard or whatever the case may be, but I'm big on – I'm a Cancer, so it's got to be fair, right? Things got to be fair. I'm big on keeping the same energy. If the Kings would have won that game, there would be no gloating. There would be no, oh, yeah, we here now. We flexed last year was last year. It'd be like, man, it's the preseason. From Warriors fans, from Kings fans. Just be like, this is the preseason. Mm-hmm. Nobody would think twice. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to think twice now.
But
that's because
if De'Aaron Fox hit that shot at the end of the game, we would not think twice.
I completely disagree.
We would not.
I completely disagree. I completely disagree about the De'Aaron Fox part. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the aspect of that I agree with you with is I do agree. For the most part, all cooler heads prevailed when we think that this is a preseason game and it didn't really matter. And for the most part, as much as it stung from a Kings loss standpoint, again, it made me excited for when these two teams do it for real 2 times in the first 4 games coming up here. Like it's like that was as good of a tune-up as you could possibly get. But the reason why Warrior fans act the way that they do is because they insecure, man. They come after you because they're they got to point out. It's to the point where I've been dealing with all summer too. I'll have a conversation about why Domantas Sabonis on whoever's rankings is on tier 3 below Bam Adebayo, and wondering why the hell is Domantas Sabonis not getting the recognition that he deserves. And Warrior fan nation has to come back in and start talking about Kevon Looney again. It's like, this don't even involve y'all. Like, why you got to insert yourself into every conversation? So that's the answer to your question, Kenny.
And I completely understand that. Let's be, like I said a couple of different times, and I'll say it again. Let's be perfectly clear. This ain't no, Northern California love. And, when you guys go up against the Lakers, it's the Lakers. How can you root for anybody aside from the Warriors? NorCal. No, we don't like
NorCal.
All right?
I give a crap about Northern California.
We don't give a damn. We don't like you, Dubs Nation. We don't like your sorry broadcasters. We don't like your fan base. We don't like your sorry owner. And we don't like your sorry team. All right? It's simple as that. Let's just be real. I want to be perfectly clear. We don't like you. All right? We don't.
I like Steph Curry. I like Steph Curry, though.
Oh, I like
Damn,
Steph
Richard
too.
Sherman. Jeez. You like Joe Lacob, too.
I say he's a good owner. I give him his respect, but he's the Warriors owner. So, no, I don't like him.
Okay. Dude, I don't think anybody would have been gloating if De'Aaron Fox hit that shot. I do think – I don't think anybody would be brushing that game off, though. Would have felt good.
I would have brushed it off.
Of course you would have. Okay. Whatever. What do I know? I would have been happy, Matt.
Other than Warrior fandom, what pissed me off the most about this game is that it overshadowed the great nights that Keegan Murray and Davion Mitchell had. And I also hate that Davion Mitchell didn't score in the second half because it kind of that also kind of undermined a little bit of how great he was in the first half. Not that anybody would know, because while Davion Mitchell is going off and going supernova in the first half and playing damn good basketball, we're learning about the new restaurant that's opening in Thrive City and all the nonsense that they're going to talk about the entire time. Never mind, when you turn on G-Man Gary Gerald and he's broadcasting a Kings-Warriors game, whoever's going off, he actually focuses on the damn basketball game on radio while you're talking about your shiny new dental office edition that you're adding. Like that's fine or whatever. You can talk about whatever the hell. Also, apparently, Jackson Davis is now the greatest player of all time. And anytime anybody not named Domantas Sabonis got a rebound, it was look at the amazing job that Jackson Davis is doing keeping Sabonis off of the glass. Like, boy, I was like Tony Reale with a mute button last night. I'd give him a little. I'd let him back in. Man, I couldn't do it.
It got so bad. I almost made some calls and said, "Hey, turn that stream back on King.com."
I'll watch buffering.
Black the game out.
Turn the stream on.
Oh, man. For those just tuning in, Matt's not here for your nonsense today. Matt is not here for your crap at all.
I went to bed honestly feeling okay. I was like, you know what? Keegan Murray balled out. He looked amazing. And the fact that he can put up the scoreline that he put up and do it while shooting 33% from 3-point range. Like last season, if he's going 3 of 9 from 3, he's finishing that game with like 11, 12 points. Last night, he drops 24 when he goes 3 of 9 shooting. Keegan Murray hit a couple, like he had an ISO step back jumper, mid-range jumper over Steph Curry, which was just beautiful to see. Like I was about ready to start giving De'Aaron Fox some Sacramento Kings coaching staff money too, because he's done an amazing job with Keegan over this offseason. And then Davion Mitchell balling out too. And if that's you're not going to get that kind of 3-point shooting performance out of Davion every night, but if he can be that kind of 3-point threat to where he fits in the Kings offense, look out, because defensively you're not going to have to worry about finding out how he works offensively, so you don't have to take him off the floor and you can let him do his thing with his full court defense. I went to bed feeling pretty good about all that, despite the sting of Steph Curry beating the Warriors. And I woke up this morning and read all the comments and all these people saying it's not a rivalry, but have enough time to come over to the Locked On Kings podcast to chirp and whine and bitch and do their thing.
You got to stay out of the comments, Matt.
No.
Oh,
no.
All right, Cardi B, you just got to stay out of there. Matty G, stay out of the
podcast.
Comments.
Don't do that.
Let's talk about
secure ass.
It don't have to be a rivalry. I still don't like your ass. What's that? Rivalry or not, I don't like you.
Let's break down some of the things that you just said there. Let's start with Keegan, because I think of all of the things that we saw last night, Keegan was certainly was the most standout thing. Nearly 36 minutes. 24 points is great. I think what caught KC's attention today and has been a focal point of discussion here, especially given some of our earlier in the week conversations, 18 field goal attempts, 9 of them were 3-pointers. He attacked the rim. He created his own shot a few times or two. He looked, Matt, like a different offensive player last night.
A 3-level score. That's what he looked like. He attacked the basket and finished strong at the rim. It wasn't just the layups. It was trying to dunk on somebody, and he did get it dunk in the first quarter. It was that perimeter threat that we know he is, and the fact that Keegan Murray can be as good as he is, and like he took 9 3-pointers last night. He hit 3 of them. I would argue that at least 6 of them were open to wide open shots. Like, these are the kind of shots that Keegan Murray is going to continue to get in these offense simply because of De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis being out there with him. Like, the Warriors know what Keegan did to him in the playoffs. The Warriors saw what Keegan was doing to him last night, and still that man is getting open jumpers. That's because of how just good and dynamic the Sacramento Kings offense is, let alone, like, I know Harrison Barnes had a bad night. I know Kevin Huerter didn't have the best night, but those two guys are getting open looks as well. So, like, Keegan can fit in whatever, like, however you want to play Keegan offensively. He's showing that he has that element to his game. Now, he still has to prove that he can do it consistently, and he still has to prove that he can be the number 2 option on a winning regular season team and a playoff team, or number 3 option on a playoff team. But everything you've wanted to see out of him to suggest that he can take that next step, he's shown you from Summer League throughout the preseason. So it doesn't matter if the games didn't matter, and it doesn't matter the competition that he's playing against. All that matters is when Keegan Murray has been on the floor, he has shown everything that he's been working on this summer and shown why the Sacramento Kings have the belief in him in the first place, that he can be an all-star caliber player and he can be that number 2 or number 3 scoring option of the future.
Yeah, I mean, I loved what I saw from his game last night. And just the aggression. Like Damian talked about it a little bit, but man, I need you to take, earlier I said 12 to 15. I'll probably move that up a little bit. He took 10 shots a game last year. Probably need about 14 to 17 shots from him every single night. You know, be aggressive. And it seems like De'Aaron Fox and some of the guys have kind of preached that to him and stressed that to him. Like, be aggressive out there. Look for your shot. That's how this team is going to make a jump, is if you're aggressive and you're the ultimate threat out there. And like you said, you have the ability now, if you're Keegan Murray, to score at all 3 levels. And I need 14 to 17 shot attempts from him a night.
Yeah. And he's not going to take bad shots too. He's not going to force things. I mean, he shoots and he scores and he attacks in the flow of the offense. And like, he's just a smart basketball player. Like that was a takeaway that I had with a lot of players last night, especially Colby Jones too. Just smart basketball players. Like it just seems like the Kings, especially offensively, they just know what they're doing and they're picking up the offense quickly. Of course, defensively, there are still big question marks, and that might be the biggest difference maker with this team actually being a championship contender or not. But Keegan Murray makes the smart and the right basketball plays. And I don't recall more than a possession or two every now and then seeing Keegan trying to force something to get himself going. He doesn't need to do that.
What do you think? What was your overall impression about Colby? More specifically, he's not a guy who I think we thought would have a place in the rotation. Do you think that's something he could earn sooner rather than later?
I think he's going to put pressure on Mike Brown to consider it over the course of this season. Certainly not to start the season, but he just makes the right reads. He makes the smart plays of staying on the perimeter, working himself around the perimeter to keep the spacing open. When he does attack with the basketball, he doesn't try and force anything. He finds the open man. He's missing shots too. I think at one point he airballed a wide open three last night. That's fine, rookie. Like I expect you to kind of miss those threes from time to time, but you put yourself in the right position to take that shot. And eventually, hopefully, you'll be in the right position to make that shot. So I see someone who the moment or the stage is not necessarily too big for him, and someone who is picking up what the Sacramento Kings are doing as a rookie quickly. That excites me, because what does it look like 3 months from now when the Kings have a lot of practicing under their belt and they're in the regular season kind of flow of things? Like Colby Jones is one of those players that I don't think is just like, hey, rookie, sit at the end of the bench and learn as much as you can this year. It's like, hey, rookie, stay ready, because at any given time, I could call your number and we expect results out of you. So he's instantly put himself in that conversation as a second-round pick. That's pretty incredible.
So look, this may go into something else that, maybe caught our ear when you spoke about it earlier. Did he earn a spot in the rotation, in your opinion, on the regular rotation?
Colby
Jones, yeah.
No, not yet. I think Mike's going to have a 9-man rotation. If it creeps up to 10, he's going to jump between a 9 or 10-man rotation, because I think there are 7 absolutely solidified guys, which is the starting 5, Malik Monk and Davion Mitchell, and then those other 3 spots could be just a combination of McGee, of Lyles, and of Duarte. Like I think that 9 to 10 is pretty much going to be Mike's rotation at this point. And then Vezenkov might work himself in situationally. Colby Jones might work himself in situationally. But I think it's pretty clear what direction Mike Brown is going in. And we'll see how it works, and we'll see what I'm more interested in what the staggered lineups look like.
I get the feeling, Matt, you're not overly impressed with Sasha Vezenkov, and I also get the impression you don't think Mike Brown is overly impressed with Sasha Vezenkov.
No, I think we jumped the gun a little bit. Offensively, it's a natural fit. Like you can see it. But defensively, he's a long way off. And Mike said something, I can't remember if it was last week. I think it was last week. Mike said something, and it was perspective that I never really thought about. And it's obvious, but I never really thought about it. Like last year, the Sacramento Kings were the number 1 offense, not just in the NBA, one of the number 1 offense in regular season history, right? And they were eliminated in the opening round of the playoffs. They might be the number 1 offense again, and they're going to try to improve on that offense, of course, and they have the pieces to do it. But if they're looking to make a jump from first-round exit to championship contender, like Mike Brown and De'Aaron Fox claim is the goal, how can you make that big of a jump by going from number 1 to number 1? Like offensively, they are set. They are good, and that's still going to be their bread and butter, and that's why I said I saw everything that I wanted to see out of the Sunday night Kings-Warriors game in Sacramento, because I asked coming into that game, I said, I just wanted starters for the first 5 to 10 minutes of that game. Just remind me of how damn good your offense is, and we'll worry about rotations and everything else later. And what did they do? They came out of the gate, and Domantas Sabonis was balling. The Kings looked great. Even the start of last night's game, and the Kings building an 18-point lead last night. Like, yes, I see that offense, so I know the offense is good. The growth is going to come from defense for a lot of the top guys, but also Chris Duarte or JaVale McGee or these new additions coming in and providing a defensive presence. Sasha Vezenkov doesn't do that yet. He's not there. And even though he's a 28-year-old and not a 21-year-old or 20-year-old coming into the league, time is on his side, or time is on the Kings' side, in my opinion, from the sense that you know what he can provide you offensively. You can go into the regular season knowing that he's not a part of my rotation right now, but with as good of a player as he is and as experienced of a basketball player as he is, he should be able to pick some things up as the season goes on.
So outside of injury, how does he get into the rotation?
I think defensively, I think his rebounding. I think his rebounding can help him get in there. Two is the natural spacing and three-point shooting. Like when he gets his opportunity, I'm envisioning a game or two where the Kings get him in there for a stretch and he just catches fire during that stretch, or not even catches fire. He goes 2 of 3 from 3-point range in a 4-minute stint that he's out there on the floor, and these shots are in rhythm and they look good. And then defensively, he's going to get targeted and he's not getting blown by or getting into foul trouble every time down the floor. I think he just needs to ease into it a little bit. So he's going to get small windows of playing time. And then in practice, it's picking up on Mike Brown's philosophies and what Mike Brown wants to do. Like Brendan Nunez posted a video last night from the Chase Center where Mike clearly pulled Sasha aside after a defensive breakdown, after a timeout, and was clearly having an animated conversation with Sasha of what he did wrong. It reminds me a lot of what Mike Brown.
Terrence.
Yeah. Mike and Terrence last year. So I expect Sasha to learn from that.
Yeah.
So that kind of coaching, I think, is going to get Sasha the opportunity. He's too good of an offensive player and a shooter that he's just going to sit on the bench for the entire year. He's going to get opportunity.
Understood. Do you hate Harrison Barnes as much as Kenny Caraway does?
The media, bro. I tell you, the media, man.
I heard that.
How many times did I say I love Harrison?
Well, your tone said something else. Your words said one thing, but your tone said
disappointed.
Okay, Dad.
There with Kenny, there's when he mentions a player's number, when he calls them by their number.
Oh, that's bad news.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Let's talk about 40.
The number is usually high regard. I'd be saying 5 all the time.
Okay, what do we used to refer to Bosa as?
97. That's completely different. Completely different.
Okay.
All I know, if Kenny starts calling me by my age, by my number, I'm running for the hills because he's about to tear me to shreds. But so here's my thing with HB. Number one, like I said, everything about last night's game looked like game 8 of the playoffs, including, unfortunately, Harrison Barnes struggling and disappearing. What's not acceptable is for him to play 31 minutes or however many minutes he played. He might have played more than that. 33 minutes, and for him to have 4 points and only like a rebound or 2, like. You have to do something. And coming into this year, I said too, if you're being bumped down in the starting lineup, the 5th option offensively, which I think he is, you have to make up for it. Focus on rebounding. Like you're going to get looks just by spacing the floor, and you're going to get looks because the Kings are going to run a play for you from time to time. And the one thing that I like about Harrison Barnes is he sometimes tends to be kind of Mr. Reliable. When the Kings are late in the shot clock and they need a bucket, a lot of times they'll give it to HB and let him either work in the post or attack the basket. And he's got kind of that slow Euro step around the rim. He's actually pretty efficient there. So he's gotten the Kings a bucket every once in a while where they just kind of need to stop the bleeding, or it's late in the shot clock and they just need their offense kind of broke down, and HB's been that guy. But you need to do more, especially playing 33. But I don't even care about that. If you're playing 20 minutes, you need to be doing much more than what you provide. It's got to get to a point where at all times we're acknowledging the fact that Harrison Barnes is on the floor. And what I mean by that is there are times where you watch the Kings play the Warriors in the playoffs. There are times last night where you watch the game and I didn't even realize Harrison Barnes was on the floor because he didn't do anything. Like that can't happen against a team as dynamic as the Golden State Warriors are. But I will say this. Harrison Barnes, when Harrison plays well, we aren't talking about him until segment 3 of my podcast. Y'all ain't talking about him until hour 2 of the show, because we just expect Harrison to be solid and steady because that's what he is and who he is. And more often than not, he does that. But when he has games where he disappears, it's A block, first segment. Oh my God, Harrison, this is unacceptable. Like for the most part, when you look at Harrison through a lens of everything that he does, he is a solid starter for a good basketball team. So I'm still 100% okay with the Kings' decision to bring him back. That doesn't mean that they don't necessarily need to upgrade his position if they want to become championship contenders at the trade deadline or a year or two down the road. That very well might happen. Same thing with Kevin Huerter. But as of right now, like, I know Harrison has these bad games when he disappears, and unfortunately, a lot of times it happens against the same Golden State Warriors team that he has a reputation for kind of disappearing for them. He needs to figure that out, and he needs to be better in those big games. But ultimately, he's had a pretty solid preseason. He's had more positive moments than negative moments in the preseason, and yet the hyper-focus of conversation around Harrison Barnes is the one bad game that he had in a meaningless preseason game against the Golden State Warriors. So I think HB gets a bad rap.
He's been about 50-50, and if he doesn't want us talking about him in the A block, then have a good game.
But when he does have a good game, he doesn't get talked about in the A block.
Okay.
He has a good game, he gets talked about in the D block.
Have a bad game so we can talk about you in the A block? No, play better. I expect more out of him. To me, he's a better player than that. I expect him to do better, and he didn't do nothing in the he's 50-50. What I mean by that, he didn't do nothing on Sunday.
Jesse, take a note of this. Next time Harrison has a big game, I want you to write down the timestamp of when Kenny acknowledges Harrison big game. Because I'm not saying it's just you, Kenny, but I'm saying, we all do. I do it
leave
too.
me out of this. I'm minding my own business. Oh, take no drive-by shots at me.
No, I do it too.
Because you're right doesn't mean you should point it out.
I can't tell you how many times on Locked On Kings, Harrison's been like the leading scorer, second leading scorer, and it's, look what De'Aaron did tonight. Look what this guy did. Oh, by the way, Harrison Barnes had 25.
We take Harrison for granted when he does well.
Yes,
and it's partly because we expect it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Harrison is probably past the point of doing anything extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he can't, but like Harrison's probably not going for 30. Like he's probably not. He probably ain't even going to take enough shots to get near 30. So 15, 4. Talk about you at 130.
But 15-4 is fine. 13-4 is fine.
Fine.
It's fine. It's nothing to be talked about. The extremes are the problem. You can't. Matt said it just like I said it earlier. You can't just be a ghost out there. That can't happen. We're not asking you to dominate the game.
I understand that.
We're not asking you to be the leading scorer or anything. You give me 12, fine. You give me 4 rebounds, 12 and 4. There's nothing to say. It's fine. Can't do that. And once again, I think he's better than that. I think he's better than the way he's played the last 2 games. He can go out there and get you 5 rebounds a night. He can get you 9 to 11 points a night. I think he's better than what he's performing. I think Harrison will tell you I'm better than that.
Yeah.
What if Harrison was just like, nah, that's who I am, bro? One day I'm going to drop 12. The next day I'm going to have 2. What the hell you want from me?
Thanks for that $18 million.
Yeah, I mean, he is a guy who gets hyper focused on. You mentioned Kevin Huerter a minute ago. We didn't get a chance to talk to you during the great debate of Kevin Huerter and Chris Duarte that took place, whether unintentional or intentional on the part of Mike Brown. Was too much made of that? Is Kevin Huerter someone to keep an eye on the next couple of weeks? What do you think of Kevin Huerter last night? Like, was that much ado about nothing? Where are you on the great Kevin Huerter, Chris Duarte debate?
See, I don't think it's much to do about nothing at all. And Mike, I think, kind of downplayed it a little bit when in practice after Sunday, I think it was Monday, he talked about, our plan was to start Kevin Huerter in Wednesday's or Tuesday's game, no matter what. Wait, it was Wednesday. In Wednesday's game, no matter what, regardless of if Duarte's healthy or not. Like, our plan was just to do this for one game and go back to it. I think he downplayed that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he downplayed that a little bit because
that was what had happened was.
So here's the thing. Like, we were just planning on, Kevin looked confused. Like, he looked confused. And I get the message that Mike Brown was trying to send to his guards, and I echo the message. Like, the perimeter defense needs to be much better. I had an interaction with Ray, who's a big Sacramento Kings fan, really active on his Kings Twitter last night, who was talking about Jackson Davis and being a bad mismatch for Domantas Sabonis after Jackson Davis got a dunk and then an and one right after it. In both of those plays, Domantas Sabonis' guy scores, and they come completely off of perimeter defensive breakdowns that put your center on an island. Like, this is where Sabonis and the Kings bigs sometimes get blamed for perimeter defensive breakdowns because the guard blows by his defender, and then I'm the center. Do I leave my guy to stop the guard from getting a layup, and then the guard just passes to my guy and he gets a dunk, or I foul him for the and one, or do I just allow the layup and keep it moving the other way? Like, the Kings' defensive breakdowns start on the perimeter and start with the guards. So the message that Mike Brown was trying to send is we need to play better, more physical perimeter defense. And Chris Duarte, before he got hurt, was playing better perimeter defense. And I think that message stuck and that message got through because I thought the Kings guards, period, were trying to play better and more physical perimeter defense. It also resulted in the Kings fouling the Warriors 40 whatever times, which some of those were unnecessary, but it is what it is. But like, the perimeter defense for the Sacramento Kings has to be significantly better. And if you're looking at guards who struggle defensively, Kevin Huerter is close to the top of that list. So I wanted to see more of Duarte with the starters because what I was interested in seeing was, can Duarte be a defensive upgrade for the Kings without the Kings taking a massive step back offensively? And in that game that he played, the offense looked just fine out of the gate. Is Kevin Huerter a better three-point shooter than Chris Duarte? Yes. Do I think Kevin Huerter is a better offensive overall player than Chris Duarte? Yes. So I still would have ultimately rode with Kevin Huerter as my starter going into the regular season, which is what the Kings are going to do. But if Kevin isn't going to be able, it's not that he's not willing to, if he's unable to pick up on the defense that the Kings are trying to play on the perimeter, and he keeps having defensive breakdowns, and Duarte can, or somebody else can, Mike's going to go to that guy. And ultimately, if Huerter can never pick it up, or insert player X here can never pick it up, then those players are either going to be sitting on the bench or going to be on the trade block with the expectation that the Kings have.
So part of me would say, like, why even go there if you're not going to do it? Because
I agree.
Because what if Duarte shows that he does better?
Mm-hmm.
Then why would you go away from that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I would never even know. I just wouldn't have done it. and when I'm ready to say, this is what I'm going to do full time, that's when I would have tried it. I know it would have been in the season and stuff like that, but that's when I would have tried it, as opposed to, because you might not like what you find out. You know what I'm saying? You might find out, yeah, this guy better for us. And now you got a situation to deal with Kevin Huerter. So it's all water under the bridge now, but at the time I would have just kept it the way it was. But, you know, I believe Mike had reasons for doing that, and it wasn't for us. It wasn't for the team. It was, or for like starting lineup wise, it was a little bit of a message to a guy like Kevin Huerter and anybody else. Hey, I got guys this year that are ready to take your spot. If you're not willing to do what you're being asked to do, I'll move to the next guy. Like, it's not just lip service. I really will move to the next guy. But, you know, Duarte's hurt. Kevin's going to be starting. And I thought Kevin did all right last night too. So
I thought he did too. I think we just want to see him hit threes at a higher clip. We want to see that 40% guy back. Or, you know, if he feels froggy, give us the 50% guy a little bit. Just don't drop to 10 after that, and, you know, maybe hover around that 40% mark more consistently. I think that's something people were talking about a lot this offseason about Huerter and Malik. Instead of the Astro World roller coaster ride, just be a little bit more consistent, and maybe, you know, some of those L's that you experienced, that the team experienced in the midway point of the season, maybe some of those disappear with more consistent performances. But that's just kind of not how guys go on runs. Guys have heaters. Guys have heaters that last a week, 2 weeks. Huerter's, for some reason, lasted like a month. Why can't he shoot 60%? You see this offense? And then, you know, 2 weeks later, he's shooting 40% again. So I think that's what people are looking for from him. We watched some of his defensive stuff earlier today, Matt. He guarded Steph a lot in the fourth quarter, or a lot. Maybe that's relative compared to, you know, Davion did, De'Aaron did as well. I didn't think he did a bad job. Like, I think sometimes when we talk about defense, we were maybe scarred by the old Buddy Hield stuff where you go back, you watch Buddy Hield film, it's like, oh my God. I'm like Kenny Caraway. I could do that. That wasn't the case with Kevin Huerter last night on Steph Curry. It was like he was fine. It was okay.
Yeah, I think like ultimately, I can't remember more than a time or two last season where offensively, or rather defensively, Kevin Huerter was so bad or doing things so wrong that it's just like, man, you got to get this guy out of the game. Like even when we talked about Kevin Huerter being disappointing, it was when he wasn't hitting shots. It was when he was going through a shooting slump, not when he was falling apart on the defensive end. But a couple things that popped into my mind when I was thinking about that. One, again, the Kings are ultimately trying to overall improve their defense. And if you need to do that by trying to find more minutes for personnel who are capable of playing the defense that you want to play, then you're going to kind of trend in that direction, number one. Number two is Mike Brown is I think doing his absolute best to make this team uncomfortable this preseason. And what I mean by that is Domantas Sabonis shared with us, like, hey, he's taken away plays that we know work. Like, and he's not just doing that in practice. He was doing that in games. Like the Kings are 0-4 in preseason to this point. Okay, nobody really cares about that record. But if you're worried about that, think about this. Throughout these games, Mike Brown has intentionally not run offensive sets that he knows work and that he knows this Kings team is really, really good at, because he doesn't want them to become too comfortable with the things that they do right. Because teams, the deeper they go into the playoffs, if you think the Warriors and the adjustments that they made in the opening round was difficult, if they want to get to the Western Conference Finals, if they want to get to the NBA Finals, there's a month worth of playoff tape on them at that point, and everybody's doing their homework. So teams are going to take away or try to take away the one or two things that you do right. So if you can be more well-rounded on the offensive end of the ball, where you can get the Keegan Murray mid-range game, you can get the Domantas Sabonis dribble handoff or low post game, De'Aaron Fox mid-range, De'Aaron Fox three-pointer, De'Aaron Fox downhill. If you can have success in more ways than just the dribble handoff game, because the Warriors took the DHO game away from the Kings in the playoffs and they struggled offensively that entire series with the exception of a game or two. Like, Mike wants this team to be more well-rounded and doesn't want them to be, and he wants them to be uncomfortable.
It's Matt George, Locked On Kings, ABC